everyone. Welcome to Living in the Question podcast. I'm Sadie.
I'm Maddy.
And we are so excited to be here with you guys. We have a lot to catch up on.
Yes.
And Maddy has been traveling the world, so we're excited to hear all about that. We specifically have not talked about it, so we can talk about it on the podcast. And so I'm excited. This is exciting for me, and I missed you.
I missed you too. Yeah, I've been gone for so long.
I know.
Feels crazy to be back home.
Yeah.
Actually, I drove my car for the first time yesterday, and I was like, this feels weird.
Did they drive on the opposite side of the road?
So we just took Ubers everywhere.
But were they on the opposite side of the road? Okay, so it's still the same that way. I'm like, that would be so weird.
Well, it's weird, especially when you're on the opposite side of the road and the opposite side of the car.
Yes.
I haven't done that, but I've been places where that's the way they operate, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if I trust myself in that situation.
I know. That's so true. We're so used to one thing and one thing only. So I guess we should share where you went. Where did you go?
So I have just come back from traveling to Colombia, and I also traveled to the Big Sur area in California. So I went to 2 new places to me.
Yay.
And it was so amazing. I had no idea what to expect. I decided to go on this trip because it was planned by who I was going with. I was like, I'm just going to show up. I'm going to show up and have an adventure, which is totally not my personality. I'm such a planner that normally I'd want to know all the details before I got there. And I would say if you're going to be traveling soon, maybe approach it that way, because it made it really exciting and everything was a new surprise to me. But I went to Medellin in Colombia, and it is so beautiful. It's this huge valley with these tall apartment buildings that are all made of orange brick. So it looks beautiful because it's all kind of uniform.
Right.
But it's just this vast valley, and it's so tropical. There's monstera leaves that are as big as my whole body.
Oh my god.
Everywhere. What I really appreciated about that culture was that they value nature, and they build around the ecosystems rather than just tearing them down like we do here in the US. They value that, and I think that's beautiful. It's something that I value, so I thought that was really amazing.
I love that specifically so much. There's so many places in American Fork where I live in Utah, and it's there's so many swamp lands, things like that, because we're right by a lake. And I always think about that because they're starting to build so much now in American Fork and expand, and they are just wiping out that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, what things live there? I think about that all the time, and it's sad now to not be able to see so many, land, so much land around where I live anymore. It's all just buildings, and it's dang it.
Well, that's stuff
one day we're not gonna have any.
Kind of permanent, right?
Yeah.
To come back from that is such a grand measure.
Right.
So it is unfortunate. I wish that there was more thoughtfulness around that type of planning and whatnot, but I loved being there for that reason. The weather was perfect. It was just so beautiful.
Was it super humid?
Was beautiful. It was, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't so hot. It was 75 degrees and just lovely.
Perfect.
We went during the rain season, and it didn't rain. Other than one evening when we were by the beach, it poured, and it was so beautiful. A butterfly flew into our room to get out of the rain, and then we set it free after it stopped. It was just this beautiful moment.
I love that. Yeah. That's exciting.
Anyway, it was so cool there. It's there's all types of vibes. You can go for the street food vibe, or there's bougie restaurants with cool experiences. Every restaurant is indoor outdoor, so they don't even have walls.
Yeah.
They have ceilings, but it's all open air.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ate amazing food. Went to art museums.
Oh my gosh.
I
Just
don't know,
enjoyed
it's just so
yourself.
cool. Yeah.
You're just present there. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's something
that
so
sounds
beautiful about traveling that brings you back to the present moment.
Yeah, and what matters, what actually matters. You're away from all the hubbub of your normal life and all the chaos, and
Yes.
When you come back, you have a new, fresh perspective.
Yeah.
So let's start with our awareness check-ins.
Okay.
Do you feel that brought up a lot of things for you to be aware of now that you're home, and what was that for you?
Right. So I feel my awareness has kind of been around this belief in the universe's timing, because this trip was a big life-changing thing for me. I went with my new boyfriend, and he planned the whole trip, and it was just so amazing. But I was quite nervous to go because I haven't been away from home with someone for that length of time ever.
Yeah, and across the world. Like,
Right.
holy
Somewhere I've
shit.
never been. I can't
Right.
really speak Spanish yet, you know. But anyway, it had me thinking about like the way that maybe I had given up on things and qualities I wanted in a person or in my life. And so I've been thinking about that a lot, how like I knew what I wanted, but I kind of slowly gave up those hopes because I thought that they didn't exist in men these days, or I thought maybe I was just not meant to find somebody like I had hoped for. I made all these excuses for like why I couldn't have what I wanted.
Can I just stop you and just say that I think so many people feel that way, that like I'm so glad we're talking about this.
Yes.
Because I think that is a real point that you get to. When you've been through like a relationship and a really long-term relationship, thought it was gonna work, and then you get out and it's like, whoa, like I'm never gonna find anybody now. Like I thought that was it.
Yes.
And now what?
Exactly.
So I love that we're talking about this.
Right.
It's
because
important.
we've both been in that space recently.
Right.
So I was feeling that, but then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna focus on myself. At the beginning of this year, I was kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. Like I decided not to cling too tightly to like what I was hoping for. But I was just telling you, so I had traveled to Moab, and while I was there, I was staying in this nice hotel, I was working out there, and I was spending the time in the evenings on self-development. I was like doing yoga, I was like, journaling and such, and I decided to write down literally on the hotel notepad, like I was just like, okay, I'm gonna write one of those lists of qualities that I'm looking in a person in the future.
Yeah.
And I have always thought that was cheesy. Like Sadie and I grew up in the LDS religion. I don't know if you guys did this, but like at girls' camp, when you're like 12 years old, they're like having you write out like the qualities you would want in a man, which is kind of interesting now that I think about it. But at the same time, that is like being specific about what you want,
right,
and identifying what matters to you and what you value. So I had never done it, and I decided to do it in Moab, and then within 2 days time, like this person pops into my life in the most unexpected place at the most unexpected time, and is just kind of every single thing that I had hoped for.
Yeah.
And
so how did you feel when you met him? Did you know that, or was it like
yeah, well, I think that when I met him, I was just like having fun, kind of like smiling, flirting with this guy, like, oh.
But you thought he was cute, like you were drawn to him a little bit?
Yes, I was drawn to
That's
him.
what I'm wondering.
For sure.
How was it for you?
It was mutual. Like every time, so we were working together, and like every time I looked his way, he was already looking at me.
Yeah.
And our eyes would just like meet, and we would just smile and laugh. Like, I'm like, what am I doing? I felt like I was getting caught every time I looked at him. I'm like, why am I looking at him again?
Yeah.
But anyway, I like upon spending time with him and like getting to know him, I was just like, dang, this dude is so like cool, interesting, unlike anyone I've ever met, which is saying something because here in Utah, a lot of the people that you date are so similar.
Yeah. Like
kind of have the same background.
Space, yeah.
Like, and so that was refreshing and exciting to me. But also he was just like such a good person, and the way everyone who had already worked with him spoke about him. Actually, he probably wouldn't want me to share this, but I'm going to anyways. Like our gay friend who kind of like that we were working with kind of set us up, or like made it happen where we talked. He was like, oh man, if he wasn't straight, he would be the person I would want to marry. And I just like thought that was speaking so highly of somebody to say.
Well, it makes you wonder, like, wait, who is it?
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, meeting this person has made me aware of how I had given up on the things that I wanted, and I'm so grateful that I like gave it a shot, and that I did something out of the norm for myself and just let it be and found out like what it could be.
Right.
Because taking that risk like really has been so rewarding, and what you want is out there. and we're going to talk about this today,
Yes.
but you have to be specific about what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be clear with yourself about how you're going to get that. Because if you keep dating the same person that's hurt you, or if you keep allowing these same behaviors and tendencies, like, how do you expect your life to change, right?
Yes, right. It's like goals are so important, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of also what we want to talk about today, but that is surrounding my awareness check-in because I had a healing with Tim, I think it was like a month or so ago. And he started talking with me about like goals because I was telling him how I have so much awareness around every single pattern that I have, like the way I relate to my world, like, my blind spots. Like I feel like I have so much awareness, but I'm stuck at this point of like putting it into action and like, okay, like what can I actually change? Because I think about my life in such big picture where it's like, well, I can change this, and it's like, okay, then I don't do any of it because now I'm overwhelmed,
Right.
And so I was like explaining that to him, and he's like, yes, we need to break it down and we need to be very specific, like you said. And so he told me about this thing called SMART goals. And so we can go through what that means after and what each acronym is, but I sat down and we wrote out like a goal for myself together. And since I've been doing this thing and completing this goal every day, I feel proud of myself. I feel so proud of myself. I feel like, oh man, I can do these things.
Mhm.
I just have to make it small enough because me and you both have a hard time with that. We make things so big and we want to change it all. And we like have the passion to change it all. And it's like, okay, but then nothing shifts.
Right.
So yeah, I want to talk about this a little bit today with everybody because I think we all can benefit from setting goals for ourselves and seeing how it makes us feel when we complete these goals, right?
There's so
Yeah.
much in celebrating those victories.
Yes.
Like celebrating the milestones as you pass them and it's, it's a cliche of like, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Right.
It's true though, because if you can learn to appreciate that part and celebrate yourself, accomplishing goals becomes something you want to do all the time.
Right. And that you can, so it becomes
Mhm.
easier. And like
Mhm.
this also bleeds into like manifesting too, right? So let's break all of this down.
Okay.
There was this man named George Doran, and I guess he was a consultant, and he developed the SMART Goals framework in 1981. So this has been happening for a lot of people for a long time. But I feel like when he explained this to me and like what it is, it made so much more sense. So let's talk through the acronym. So
Let's do.
S is specific.
Yes.
So being very specific, like you said before, you have to get it down to the exact words, like very specific words to get exactly what it is you're trying to manifest or what it is you're trying to set a goal for.
Yeah.
So
clearly define the goal.
Yes. And then M, do you want to do M?
Sure. So M is for measurable. And this is creating like quantifiable criteria to track your progress. So you have to have specific measurements of what you are trying to do and when you're trying to do it.
Yep. And how long you're going to commit to this for and stuff like that. So then A is achievable, which kind of goes along with measurable. Like make it achievable of the timeline of how long you can, like you feel yourself doing this for, right? And make it small at first.
Yes.
You can make bigger goals later, but like when you're doing this for the first time, make them very small.
Yes, make them
And
attainable.
achievable. Yes.
Yes. I feel like for this, what came up for me was my Spanish goal. So I actually have the opposite thing where I do it daily. I do my Duolingo every day, but I'm not really learning because it's not challenging enough. So I think it has to be challenging but attainable. Because how are you going to get anywhere if you don't like push yourself a little bit?
Right. Yeah. And build the confidence that you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then R is relevant. So I feel like this one is just like make it relevant for your life and like what you're trying to achieve. Like, is this relevant for you, for your life? And also like, is it achievable? Like, can you do it?
Yeah. I think with the relatable course or the relevant part.
Yeah.
I think the reason that that's included too is because if it's not relevant to your life, like you're more likely to drop off.
Yeah, and it's not important to you, right?
Like I've made irrelevant goals in my life. And I
Right.
don't really end up achieving them because I'm like, eh.
Yeah. And even if you do achieve them, you don't get the victory we're talking about when it's not relevant for you. And then T.
T is time bound. So this is really important when you're setting goals, because if you don't set a timeline, and I do this, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do that, but I don't end up doing it because I don't give myself a deadline of when I want to have it accomplished by. So I think this one is huge. You need to set a timeline of when you're trying to accomplish this goal. That keeps you accountable.
Yep. I've noticed that for myself. Like me and Maddie have talked about this on previous episodes, like with our 30-day yoga challenge. Maddie's so good at doing this 30-day yoga challenge, and I have such a hard time with it because I do it for 5 days and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good. Like, okay, I'm good. But I'm not necessarily making a goal to do it every single day. Of course, that's my intention, but like, am I writing this goal down? Am I making it specific? Am I making it achievable for myself? You know, it's hard for me to do 45 minutes of yoga every single day. Like, that's not necessarily, you know, what would work for my life right now. And that's absolutely attainable.
Yes.
So I think that really matters. So I feel like when we're talking about these SMART goals, like, why would anybody set a SMART goal? Like, what's that going to do for me? You know, like, how is it going to help? Of course, all of us know that you hear that all the time. Set goals and like, you'll be successful and whatever. But obviously it's important, but I honestly feel like the victory that we were talking about transforms so much of your life. If you can like make a SMART goal and be very specific and complete that thing and complete that goal over a certain, you know, period of time, I truly feel like that victory that you feel can transform your whole life. If you start to feel victorious about, oh man, I did this, like your confidence builds, like your life feels better because you wanted to achieve this thing. You like view the world through new eyes of, oh man, now I can do this. And now you know, you are different. If you feel super victorious and can allow yourself to be proud of yourself for this thing, and then you're going to want to do it more. And how can you not grow from doing that? Right?
So beautifully said. I, again, have reiterated this so many times about the 30-day challenge, but the biggest thing about the 30-day challenge is not the changes in my body, not even in the mind. It's the fact that I know that I can do something consistently for 30 days. Now I know that I can do that. And so anytime I have done the 30-day challenge, which I've done it honestly like probably 10 times now, I just know that I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
That's like part of my personality now. Like I say I'm going to do something and I do it.
Right.
Not always, but with those types of things, I feel like this confidence in myself, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it also like, yeah, when we're talking about like this self-confidence, you carry yourself in a completely different way.
Right. So I want to share a little bit about what my first goal was because I didn't complete it. So that's also something that I think is important to talk about is sometimes you'll set the goal and be like, oh yeah, this is good. I can do this. And maybe you won't.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe that goal starts to be like, oh man, that was a little too big, which is what happened to me. So let's talk about it. My first goal was for 5 minutes every morning before I get ready for work, before I do whatever, I sit down and do yoga, just stretch for 5 minutes, get myself in my body before the day, which sounds great, right? Like I really need this. Like I need that morning routine. I've been thinking about that for a long time, but when it went into play and I tried to start doing that, I noticed how much chaos I felt in the morning, like trying to get myself fully ready, especially on the days that I have Odin. Like I did good until I had Odin. And then it was like, oh man, okay, that means I have to wake up earlier. That means like I have to like super prioritize this thing for me, which is already hard for me to do. Like it's already been really hard for me lately to like take time for me. So like it just was so many factors going into it that I was like, you know what? I'm changing my goal. And I dropped it. And I was like, I'm changing my goal. My goal now is going to be a little bit smaller where I've been feeling really tired lately, and my goal is going to be when I'm, you know, every single night to make sure that I'm getting 8 hours of sleep. And that felt so doable for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, okay, I just have to, you know, calculate how many hours of sleep I'm going to get and make sure I'm going to bed by that time. And then I'm gonna feel better in the day, and then maybe I can do a morning routine. But when I'm not getting enough sleep, that doesn't help either. You know, so I broke it down to that, and I've been doing so good with that, and it's way more achievable. So if you do this where you're like, set a smart goal, and then, you know, it goes downhill and you realize, oh man, this isn't for me, then switch it up. Make it smaller for yourself, you know?
Right. And I think coming from a place of like health is well, you have to be healthy in order to accomplish anything. I'm actually like battling a cold right now, and I can't really do anything, you know what I mean? Like, and I just have to be okay with that. Like, life is slowing down. I've just returned from a trip. Like, I just need to care for my body in order to move on with my summer. And that's hard because we all feel like we have so much to do, but prioritizing your health before you go after these grand goals is like, it's key. It's the hierarchy of needs. Like, you have to do that. So good for you.
Thank you.
Do you feel like you're able to accomplish more now because you've just simply done that?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I'm proud of myself. First off, when I wake up, I also feel better in my body, like not fully better. I've been dealing with a lot of like health issues lately. Maybe I'll share on a different episode, but I feel like that has been really hard for me, is like, oh man, I'm not feeling good at all any day. And just the sleep part of it is like, oh man, okay, I wake up feeling slightly more energized. Like, oh man, I can do this. I can take on my day. So I feel like that has helped me a lot in that way for sure.
Well, and it's also just like honoring your body.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't get a good night's rest, the fact that you tried to give yourself that, like, is beautiful.
Right.
Like, that you're showing yourself care.
Yes, and I've always known that I need 8 hours of sleep at night, but I've been fighting it for a long time. Like, I fight it at night.
I know you do.
I literally fight it, and I'm just like, why? I know I need this. So also doing something that I know I need. So that's something too, like if you guys are like, where do I start, and coming up with a goal? Because even me and Maddie, we were just sitting here thinking, oh man, what can my goal be? And it was hard. It's hard to think about because there's so many things we want and that, you know, we can have. So where do you start?
I think you start with like examining what you want the most right now. Like, what do you really want?
Yeah.
And be selfish about it. Not like, oh, I just want this so that everything's better. Like, what will make you happy? What makes you feel aligned with yourself and your life purpose?
Yeah. And like, what do I need right now? That's what it was for me, because of my body stuff. It's like, what do I actually need? And like that I know will make me feel better, right? So think of all those things, maybe jot them down on a paper of all of those things that you feel you need right now, and then be like, oh, okay, which one's attainable? Like, what can I pinpoint that makes the most sense for my life right now? So I feel like that's a good place to start. And we're going to talk about these steps a little bit later as well, of just, you know, how to break this down, how to write a goal. And we're going to write one with you guys. So we're excited about that. But before we go into that, I want to talk about timelines, because this is such a big thing that has been in my awareness. I just got full body chills for like the last month, is timelines, and how much our world has a hard time not only slowing down, but not getting what they want when they want it. Like allowing space around manifesting, around, you know, like just being in our bodies more. Like we're on these, with this technology in front of our faces 24/7, and this like constant need for more, taking in so much information. Like, no wonder we're all chaotic and having emotional crises and like having a hard time changing patterns, you know? So I think talking about this timeline thing is really important.
Yes. And it kind of goes along with what I was speaking to earlier. Is like, we have these ideas of what our lives are supposed to look like, especially like the culture that we grew up in. It was like, you need to be married and you need to have children by this point, and you need to, you know, it was, there's like these timelines that we grew up with. And when you stop, you know, or maybe don't even stop, maybe you just never conform to them, then you have to challenge that in your mind too, and make amends with it and be okay with it, or explain it to the people in your life. And you know what? Time is a social construct. It's something that we've created to manage our lives better, but who's to say you're on the wrong timeline? Who's who's to say that it's not all going to work out in its perfect timing? And that is something I've recently started to believe again for myself, is like everything is working out exactly how it's supposed to. It's unfolding in its divine timing.
Yep, which is a huge part of manifestations. We can talk about that too, like believing and trusting that not only the universe has your back, but also the timeline will be perfect for what you need. And not trying to rush the timeline, because we want what we want when we want it. That's just how we are as humans, right? And
I don't think we've always been that way, though. I think that this has come with our modern culture of instant gratification. We want everything we want, and we want it now, and we can have food delivered to our door in 30 minutes, and if they're slow, then we don't tip the driver. You know, it's like this, it's crazy when you take a step back from it and look at like the way we expect everything to just happen for us right when we want it. Like, that's not gonna work. But
well, and that creates like this constant anxiety in our life of like, oh, I can't have this right now. Like, you know, it's harder for us to cope with the fact that we can't have this thing right now because it's a phone call away, or it's a online order away, or whatever it is. Like, it makes it harder to cope, you know, with just letting things go as they go. But I truly feel like when you sit down and you trust and believe that this will come when it's supposed to, it makes everything so much more smooth. And that thing will come, right?
Right. So just quickly, I just wanted to define like what manifestation is. So manifestation is the process of bringing thoughts, desires, and intentions into reality through focused belief and action. That's exactly what we're talking about.
This is so interesting we're talking about this, and this is a little off topic, but I have been feeling that way, like with these certain goals, right? Like I can feel in my body when I don't fully believe something yet, or when I don't want to let myself believe it. Like, that's how I feel with dating and finding my person. I was thinking about that when you were talking, is like, I feel like I want a person, but like I have a hard time letting myself sit in the belief that that person is out there.
Totally.
It's hard for me to like sit in that, and I've tried to do it, like sit and just think, okay, that person is coming when the time is right, and like I feel it, but I can also feel that I'm holding back and I'm not letting myself fully believe it. So I think that belief part is real. And I know when I do that and I sit down and I write out all the qualities I want, and I let myself like sit in the belief of this is coming for me whenever the time is right, like it will happen.
It will.
But you have to, you know, you have to be ready for it too, right? Like ready and willing and open to receiving it when the time is right. Yes.
Just that.
Just yes. This is a big thing for everyone, trying to manifest the life that you want and what that can look like. But the time frame piece is huge.
Well, and I want to speak to the aspect of letting go of your attachment to the outcome. When you decide what it has to be, you might miss the opportunity because you're so focused this way. You might not see the things that are popping up for you, the opportunities that are popping up for you. And I've done that a multitude of times in my life, but I can speak to right now as far as like romantic relationships. I stayed open and gave a good, nice dude a chance. And I had actually said to myself, like, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I was like, okay, I'm done dating soft boys because they can't like bring the stability that I want. And then I meet this totally soft cutie, and but he does that still. He still has that quality of like stability and understanding like how to provide and like wanting to take care of someone. And if I had just decided like, oh, he's too soft and sweet, like I wouldn't have had the chance to get to know him and find out that like he was exactly like what I was hoping for.
Right.
So I think when you approach maybe dating specifically or whatever, like stay open-minded and don't decide you know what it has to be or the way that this desire of yours is going to come into your life.
Yeah, and that's something that I wrote down too, is like that we can't stress about the future and all that's going to come, especially when we actually have no idea. Like, let's break it down. We actually have no idea. So yes, let's just be open to what could come, right? And just be open to the fact that it's going to be for our highest good. And just know that and trust it.
And when you're in that space, you will feel so much better, because I've been on both sides of this. I have a tendency to future trip and wonder what's going to happen and want to know, but
try to plan it out.
And force things to be the way I want them to be. But as I've kind of just let go of that, things happen so much easier and better, and better than you expect too. I want to say that, like, if you allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised by the gifts that the universe want to give you, you'll be happy. You will be pleasantly surprised, because it really truly will be better than you expected.
Yes, I love that. I wrote that too, like, trust the process and know that if we truly work at something and be honest with ourselves, like, if it's not working, that whatever we desire most will be ours.
Right.
It totally will.
I think a good practice for a lot of people would be to think about things that have shown up in your life that, like, maybe were years later than you planned, or so unexpectedly, like you had no idea that it would pop up that way.
Yeah.
Because it reminds you that this actually manifestation is real. Like, for me, I think I've shared this before, but like, I didn't even have the awareness that I wanted to be a florist. But then I saw 3 years ago, I was like saving these floral arrangements, and I had like saved a job posting about a floral work. Like, I didn't even remember that. And now here I am doing it and trying to build my own business doing it, you know.
And some part of you knew that that's what you wanted, but you know, the time wasn't right.
Right.
And now here you are.
And maybe it'll be so much more beautiful if it unfolds when it's supposed to, rather than your forced timeline.
And I just want to talk about too a couple other things that we like want, right, to happen like quickly. Another one is like success. Like, we don't know when success is going to come or what that's going to look like at all. We also don't know like when our life on this earth is done. Like, we don't know any of those things. So I feel like just pulling it in and being a little bit more present with ourselves and coming back to like what it is we need and like what it is we truly want in our life, you know, be honest with yourself and then write out those goals. We can do those things and our whole life will change, right?
So I just want to speak to what you just said. I think the most important part of manifestation is being present and being grateful, because when you do those things, your life is going to improve and you're going to see what's all around you, the abundance in your life already. And I think that positive energy attracts more positivity into your life. But we really do only have today and this present moment. And it's like, when you come back to that awareness, like, you remember what actually matters.
Right.
Like, rather than, oh, I want to be this and I want to be that. Like, you're whole as you are.
Yeah. And we can all do whatever our heart desires if we do the actions and, you know, have belief in it.
The other part of you talking about success.
Yeah.
I like when we talked with James, he was talking about like, oh, these overnight successes have been doing the work for 10 years. And we forget that, because on social media, we see somebody go viral, or we see this person that is living this luxurious life or whatever. And we think, oh my gosh, that just happened for them overnight.
Like, how did they do that?
Like, oh, it took like 1 month for them to get 1 million followers. No, these people have been perfecting their content creation, and they've been sharing stuff that was like weird, like on YouTube 10 years ago, you know?
Right. And even working towards like their own personal growth and like focusing on those things, right? And then all of a sudden they are big and we're like, whoa.
Yes.
How did he do that? Well, he did it through 10 years of life experiences. Yeah.
Another thing that's coming to mind with manifestation is this idea of like finding people that are expanders for you. So an expander is somebody who is living the way you want to live, doing the thing you want to do. And also, I'm just thinking of this, but like, who you surround yourself with really does matter. They say you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It's so true. So when you're going about these goals or changing your life or becoming who you want to be, whatever it is, think about these. Who do you look up to? Why? and then identify what they did to get to where they are. Because sometimes we look at them and they're like, oh, they make that look so easy. Like, they just have it all. But they created that too.
And they were where we are once, you know?
And ask them questions. Like, reach out to people. People want to help each other.
Most people.
Well, not copy them. Who cares?
Yes, if not, then just watch.
Yeah.
You know, watch and
observe and
learn. Exactly. Watch and learn. Love that.
And then I think the last part, like, really, well, maybe not the last part, but is taking that, like, inspired action towards what you want.
And I want to say again, baby steps. We say this all the time, but it's because it's crucial. You know, if you make these things too big, like, it gets hard to accomplish them. And then you just feel like this is hard.
Yes.
You know? So I think the baby steps of it and doing the little actions. Like I said, 8 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
That's the first little action that I can do to make everything else better. And it is in its own little way. And then when I'm good on that, I'm going to add something else, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that, taking the baby steps, breaking it down, trying to, you know, make sure that it is attainable for your life and where you are right now. And then believing.
Right, like visualizing. I like the idea of visualization too, because that helps so much when you visualize yourself knowing Spanish, when you visualize yourself being rested and vibrant and beautiful and ready to conquer each day. Like, that's what's gonna motivate you to get there.
And make you believe it too. Like, fully be able to believe that this can happen for me, right?
Or like, again, like dream boards, mood boards. We even manifestation is going so mainstream that even when I was doing my sales job with sales bros, they would have us make dream boards and put them as our back screen on our iPad or on our laptop, because when you see what you want every day, that helps remind you what you're trying to attain.
Yes. And also, this just came up for me, but during work on Friday, we had like an all team meeting, and we always do like personal growth exercises in our all team meetings, which is so beautiful. I'm like so glad I work for somebody that does these things, because that's so me, you know? But we talked about our values, and we did an exercise to figure out what our values are.
Okay.
And we went through like 50 different words and circled like 20 of them that resonated with us, like that we truly believe in. And it helped so much in this goal process, right? Like writing your goals to come from a place of knowing exactly what your values are. So there was a list of 50, we went to 20, and then we broke it down to 12, and then went from 12 to 6. And seeing those words there, it honestly, like they're on the page broken down and like, you know, like truly what I want on this page, it put into perspective so many things for me of like, holy shit, I actually do know myself, right? Because sometimes you forget that, like, you know who your soul is, but we do. And looking, you know, going through all of that and sifting through the things that truly matter to me. Now that I have these 6 values that matter to me, I've been noticing how much it's helping every single decision that I make to go back to my values and be like, okay, you know, when I'm writing a goal, okay, well, I have no idea where to even start. Well, what are my values? Look at your values, like write them down. So if you guys are having a hard time with this and trying to figure out what your goal is, you know, or like what you want in life, even when dating, right? If you have these values written down, you can view your dating life from, oh, well, this is what I want. Let me come back. Whenever anything gets too chaotic, let me come back to these values and what actually matters to me.
Wow.
And then doing it through that, like that literally changed so much for me, just thinking about it that way.
And it feels so good to have that clarity of mind, of your values, of your purpose, of where you want to go. It's so much easier to accomplish things from a place of clarity, because when you're lost and you're like, I don't know, I want everything to be different. I don't even know necessarily what, but like, I think, that's like the first step, right? It's specific.
Right. And figure out what those things are for you. And I'm sure there's an exercise out there on the internet that takes literally 5 minutes to figure this out. So everyone go do it, figure out what your values are. And when you're writing your own SMART goal, go from there. So that's our challenge this week, or for the next 2 weeks, is everyone write a SMART goal. Write that down for yourself. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. And we're also going to write one with you guys. So we can kind of break this down with you. Okay, so the very first step is kind of what I said, is figure out what you value. Figure out what you need. Like, what do I need in my life? Something like that. Okay, so the steps are figure out your values and then ask yourself, what do I need right now? Or what do you want your next month to look like? Or how do you want your next month to feel? What's the vibe? Kind of think along those, those things. Think along those lines. There you go. And yeah, come up with something that you feel would be good for you. And then number 2 is just like to break it down and make it smaller and more obtainable. Because I think that we think about such big things, like I want this to change, like I was saying, especially for us. So if you're like us, then this is going to help you out because we're going to break it down. So, and then write it down is the last step. Write it down.
The most important. Yes,
and put it somewhere in your house that you are going to see it every day to be reminded of your goal and how much you can do that thing. So mine, I've been thinking about this, is so this whole weekend, this is kind of where it came from for me, is this whole weekend I haven't had Odin, and at the beginning of the weekend I was so freaking pumped because I'm like, I don't have anything planned this whole weekend. I'm going to enjoy myself. Like, I need space for me. This is what I'm going to do. And guess what? I haven't even been home for longer than an hour, like the whole weekend. Like, I've been nonstop. And this is what I tend to do.
Yeah.
Yes. Is I fill my space with so many things. So my goal, I think, should be every single day taking at least an hour out of my day to relax and to just be. Like, to just be with Odin and play a game, or to be in my home, right? Be in my home and take 1 hour to not have something on my agenda. That's going to be my goal.
Challenging but attainable.
Yes, yes. So let's go through it. So S is specific. Is that specific enough? I would say make to that the hour a day to relax needs to be at home. Okay. I need to make sure I'm home for 1 hour a day, relaxing and taking in my surroundings, whatever that looks like. Measurable. How long am I going to do this for? I'm going to say 2 weeks for right now.
Perfect.
2 weeks, we're going to do it. Achievable, yes, I think this is achievable because I know I need it. And also, yeah, I think it would be really good for me, and just to make the specific intention of being home for an hour a day, I can do that. I just choose to do otherwise. So that would be good. Relevant, very relevant for me. Don't even need to go into that one. And then time-based.
Don't even
need to go on that. But, and then time-based. So, yeah, putting a time frame on it. 2 weeks. And then hopefully longer. But we'll start there. Start small. Do you have one that you've thought of?
So I've thought of a few things, but I think that I'm just going to go back to my SMART goal. My specific goal is to learn Spanish. It has been my goal. You guys know I've been talking about it since January, but okay, I have been consistently doing Duolingo every day, somewhat asking people like, what does this mean? How do I say this? But I need to challenge myself more. So that's actually where I'm at. With Measurable.
So you say that I'm going to learn Spanish.
Yes.
But, okay.
But
so
Measurable.
Measure it.
What I want to do is achieve conversational fluency. So by the end of the year. So I still have 6 months. I don't actually know how I'm going to measure that other than if I'm able to hold a conversation.
Yeah. Or every day doing more than your 3 minutes.
Right.
Is there a certain time?
Exactly. Yes. I need to commit to 15 minutes a day. That's 5 times what I'm doing.
Is that attainable?
Yes, that's attainable.
Or should you say 10?
No, I think 15.
15 is good. Okay.
Yes, 30 does not feel.
That feels like too much.
No. But, yes, it's totally achievable. I have 30 minutes a day that I can do this, and I can implement other practices as well.
Mhm.
I have people all around me that speak Spanish, literally at work, in my family,
Okay.
in my relationship.
Mm.
So
So it's
need
definitely attainable.
yes, it's
Okay.
definitely attainable.
Okay.
And then relevance, this is why I chose this as my goal, because the relevance prior to this, like when I decided I was going to learn this in January, it wasn't so relevant. There's not necessarily opportunities for me to speak Spanish other than, okay, I want to have a conversation with my brother or whatnot.
Mhm.
But now that has completely shifted. My boyfriend's family is Peruvian and they speak Spanish at home.
Mm.
And
Isn't that kind of weird to think about? That,
Yeah.
like, you made this kind of goal to learn
Mhm.
Spanish, and now here you are. You
Yes.
manifested in your own way. You didn't
I
even
did,
know.
exactly. But it's completely relevant now.
Mm.
And I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I've
Hey, that's
always
awesome.
wanted to know a language. I've always wanted to speak other languages, and up until now I haven't made that effort, so now I am.
Yes.
And it needs to be time bound. So my goal was to attain conversational fluency within a year. I don't know if I'm really on track with that, but I'm going to make that my goal still. I don't know
Okay.
exactly how to track that, but we're gonna go for it.
Yeah.
I guess if
Maybe
I can
even-
chat with people, then I've done it.
Yeah. Well, even if you can just like say something to your boyfriend every day that's in Spanish, you know,
Right.
like a one sentence thing, like
Mhm.
that's doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Love that.
Deal.
I love that. Okay, so everybody sit down. You can pause the podcast. You know, write down your goal and brainstorm for a minute. Give yourself some time. And if you don't know right now, that's okay. Maybe think about it for a day and do it tomorrow. But try to get this SMART goal set for yourself. You know, at least for the time frame is up to you. However long you want to do this goal for, however long it's attainable for you for. So I think that this is going to help all of us feel a lot more victorious in our lives and be more present in our lives and actually like making conscious decisions about how we're going to grow.
And what better time to do this than summer? I feel like the sun
Yes.
just recharges us, and there's
Mm.
like this new vitality towards change and new hopes and dreams for our lives. So
Mhm.
I think this is in its own timing.
Yeah, yep, meant to be. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll talk to you in a couple weeks. Bye.